Welcome everybody. I'm just racing through some career races here. Sorry for the lighting in my room. It's kind of dark today, so there's not much light coming in the through the curtains in front of me to light my face, but that's okay. I don't care because I shaved my mustache off and I don't like it, so it can be dark. I'm actually not here to show you any racing. I'm here to talk about some videos that I saw them last summer after the 2023 Le Mans, and I just happened to see another similar video pop up last night, and I wanted to address something for those that may not know the intricacies of racing and race strategy. Um, if you don't know, last year at the 2023 Le Mans, there was a NASCAR. I don't know the specs of the car. It was basically a NASCAR though, but it was I can't even remember the word I'm trying to say, but it was an entry that wasn't in any of the other classes. The normal classes are GT, and uh, last year did they still have GTE and GTE Pro and AM? I don't remember. I think they did. I think that was the last year of the GTE classes. And they had LMP2 and LMP1, and this NASCAR was just kind of an entry in its own class. I wish I could remember the word. I've tried 5 times now to remember the word, but I can't remember the word I'm looking for. But anyway, um, I watched the race, and after the race, even during the race, I think some of these videos started popping up, and they were talking about how the NASCAR was faster than the Ferrari. And that's not true because I watched the race. The Ferrari won. The NASCAR finished behind basically every LMP car that finished the race. The NASCAR finished behind them. I don't remember the exact standings. There may have been some that were slower or that finished behind, depending on a lot of different things. So I wanted to address this a little bit, and specifically about the video I saw last night, because there's probably portions of the track where the NASCAR was faster. Like every car has its places where it's strong and the places where it's not, and so there's a very real possibility that the NASCAR was faster at particular spots on the track at particular times. But what people seem to be trying to take advantage of is the lack of general knowledge about racing and race strategy. And look, I'm not a race car driver, but you don't have to be a race car driver to understand how racing works sometimes. If you have jumped into racing games and you've tried to study the real way, like how to take corners and stuff like that, you don't even have to be good at it. If you've studied the tactics for how to apex and how to take corners and what racing lines are and what your different methods for taking corners are and things like that, you'll start to get really annoyed at racing movies, for one thing, for never showing anything close to race strategy, real race strategy, I should say. And I'm going to talk about that too here. But real quick, let's just watch this video so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is a video. You'll see that G56 NASCAR Bullies faster LMP car at Le Mans 2023. So this is the tail end of the video. When I hit play, it's gonna end the video and they're gonna start back. They're approaching our nage, and the LMP2 is on the inside and the NASCAR's on the outside. So NASCAR's following, closing the distance a little bit. There goes the Cadillac hypercar. I think that's the Cadillac hypercar. Were they running last year? Yeah. They should have been running. And the LMP2 starts to pull away. I'm just going to leave that playing for a minute while I talk about this. So what's happening? They're approaching our nage. The LMP2 was coming up to pass on the inside, and they just happened to pass at the corner. That's a really tight corner, and they're both kind of offline a little bit there, Of course, we don't get to see what was happening like as they approached the corner. It could be that the NASCAR passed, but I would say that if the NASCAR had passed, that they would have shown that because that would have further um, sold their title, right? So the NASCAR wasn't passing. The LMP2 car was passing the NASCAR. The NASCAR never bullies the LMP2 car here at all. Not even close. Not even close. And you might say, like, well, he was catching him there for a minute. He out accelerated the LMP2 car. That's because he's on the outside of the corner, and the LMP2 car is on the inside. The LMP2 car had to slow down more to make the corner, more than likely, and could not get on the accelerator as quickly. Whenever you take a wide corner, and especially at Arnage, you can kind of take a wide corner and cut back and like get on the throttle, where like a car coming in the inside has to slow down a little bit more, and then they have to like they come out a little wider, and then like can't get on the accelerator as soon as this car can. So what is happening here is more than likely the NASCAR got on the carried a touch more speed through the corner, and then got on the accelerator slightly earlier, just a touch earlier, and so was able to close the distance. And there may be some other things going on there too, but that's probably what was going on. And you can see this Cadillac just blows by them both, and then the LMP2 car starts to pull away as they pull up towards the Porsche curves. And the LMP2 car just leaves the NASCAR behind. So nobody's bullying. That NASCAR never bullied anybody the entire race. Never the entire race. Now, I do want to say, I don't want to take anything away from that NASCAR. It was a cool car, and it did its job. Like, I remember while I was watching, people were very impressed by the NASCAR. The commentators were very impressed by it. The crowd was very impressed by it. It was impressive, and it served its purpose in being there to kind of showcase NASCAR and show what NASCARs could do. It sounded amazing. It was such a good sounding car. You could always tell it was coming. I mean, and that's one of the things that's really cool about the that race league anyway now, because you've got like a Cadillac that's just bellowing every time it comes around in the hypercar class, and the Porsches and the Ferraris and the BMWs and the Lamborghini, they all sound good. You know, the Cadillac just sounds different. You know, it's something different to mix it up a little bit. And that Mustang, or that that NASCAR, it did the same thing. Like it really grabbed attention, which is what it was there to do. It was an exhibition. That's not exactly the word I was looking for earlier, but it works. That was an exhibition, and it served its purpose, and it was fast, and it did handle well, and all those things. So I don't want to take anything away from the NASCAR car, but I get really annoyed at people who are trying to make it into something it's not, because it never bullied anybody, and it wasn't faster than the prototypes. It wasn't. The prototypes handled it. As I slide off the track here, because I carried way too much speed into that and didn't brake early enough. I was too worried about that other car. Yeah, the NASCAR never bullied anybody. It was fast in its own right, and it did its job, but it wasn't. It's not like it was passing Ferraris on the Mulsanne or even cornering, you know, like exceptionally compared to the prototypes. It wasn't doing it. It just wasn't. So I never watched. There was like a longer format video I remember coming out like during Le Mans or right after, and it kept popping up in my feed because, you know, I'm interested in that kind of stuff. And the title was how the NASCAR was faster than Ferrari at Le Mans, or something to that effect. It was something similar to that. And I never clicked on it because that was clickbait, and I knew it was clickbait, and I knew it wasn't true because I watched the race, and I know who was faster and who wasn't. And so I'm sure that when you got into the video, it's probably something nuanced or something that, like, where I could have learned something about the way they were running. But I just wasn't going to click on a clickbait title. I'm tired of clickbait working, and I'm tired of people like buying into it. And then I'm also tired, just in case, the video was wrong. I'm kind of tired of people like describing racing incorrectly, if you will. So now I want to talk about the two big racing movies that have come out in the last several years. But so I want to describe this like I'm talking about Ford versus Ferrari and Ferrari. I just watched Ferrari the other day. Ford versus Ferrari I think is a relatively good movie. It's got a lot to watch and a lot of fun stuff in it, and there's some good racing scenes. Just if you're in it for like looking at cool cars going around a track and racing each other and stuff like that. And you can learn a little bit. Some of it I think is not quite accurate, but you can learn a bit about how Ford and Ferrari were operating back then. Ferrari was interesting, and I think that there was some good that in the movie of Ferrari if you're like looking for something, again, kind of about that period of life in Enzo Ferrari's time, or like the development of the brand or whatever. Like it was somewhat interesting, although less so, I think. And the CGI in Ferrari was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. I think I've drawn better CGI on notebook paper than what was in that movie. It was terrible. Some of the worst CGI I've seen outside of a Sci-Fi Channel movie in my adult life. Let's not slide out. Come on. Make the corner. There we go. But the racing is what I'm talking about, because I'm tired of movies showing, in Ford versus Ferrari, this was a huge problem. The problems were similar in the movies, but a little bit different. So I'll talk about Ford v Ferrari first. In Ford v Ferrari, they literally showed several times where, with willpower and pressing the throttle a little bit more, you could glare at your opponent and go faster. And then whenever they saw you going faster, they would glare back at you, press their throttle down a little bit further, and will their car to go faster, and then they would go faster. And that's all it takes to race, fellas. That's all it takes to race. You want to be fast, just press your accelerator a little bit harder and glare at your opponent. They talked about brakes a little bit. They talked about RPM and stuff like that. It's like, there was some discussion in the movie about how they didn't want to break their car, so they were going to hold the RPMs, back a little bit and not stress the engine and stuff like that. And then it was like, there's the famous like go like hell, which I think they did it at the wrong time, maybe in the movie. Golly, that car is going so slow through that corner. I didn't think I was gonna. What is the AI doing here? I guess he didn't will his car to go faster and press his accelerator as hard as I was pressing mine. So I guess I'm gonna bump the difficulty up for the next race. So yeah, like there's a little bit of discussion of some realistic stuff and a little bit of showcasing of realistic ish racing, but for the most part in that race it was like, who has brake problems and who doesn't, and who can will their car to go the fastest by pressing the accelerator a little bit harder. In Ferrari, it was all about don't hit your brakes. Make the other guy hit your brakes. If neither of you hit your brakes, you're both going to die, but whoever hits their brakes first loses. And that was pretty much it. That was the racing strategy. That's all you got to do is play chicken into the corner. And they got close to something. There's a part where Enzo in Ferrari is talking about how there's one line. There's one line. And so like don't hit your brakes or something. So it went from having one line to don't hit your brakes. So there is a line through the corner, and there are ways to, if you're like behind somebody and faster, there are ways to smartly go offline to, either maximize your exit speed, or to kind of trick the opponent into thinking you're going for a pass and causing them to defend.
3 to go.
So that then they make a mistake and get offline and stuff like that. So there's a lot of racing strategies like that I would like to see them put into movies. And you can't necessarily do it all because the general public doesn't necessarily understand the racing strategies, but there's like pit strategy. That's huge. Which they showed a little bit of pit strategy in Ferrari, but it was kind of dumb. It was really poorly done, and they made it sound like you only need your tires to hold air. You don't necessarily need them to have tread on them, which really the point of the tires, you do have to have them hold air, but like you got to get the grip. Like it's all about grip with the tires. And if you're sacrificing grip, then you're sacrificing time. And if you sacrifice enough time to where that meets or exceeds the time it would take to change the tires, then you should change the tires. Basically, that's a very oversimplified way to state it, but this stuff needs to be shown in the movies more, because honestly, like I've said it in a previous video about movies and how they like either explain too much to the viewer, or they leave way too much out because they think that the viewer is dumb. So what I'm saying here is that the movies need to realize that the general public can pick up on context clues, and they don't necessarily need to understand every little bit of how the racing is done. It's fine if you show real racing strategy, like if you show a cutback, somebody coming up behind somebody, but they don't quite have enough speed to pass them, but like they fake passing to the inside, the leading car defends, the other car goes to the outside, goes through the corner perhaps slower than they would have otherwise, but gets a cutback, gets on the accelerator pretty hard and early, and is able to gain some straight line speed to pass them. You don't have to explain all that to the viewer. Just show it, and the viewer can see it, and you can use some different language to create context clues so that the viewer gets basically what happened. Same thing with pit strategy. You can have dialogue that talks about how, like, well, we're gonna lean out our mixture a little bit, and we're gonna lose some time, but we're gonna protect our tires, and we're going to see if we can save a pit stop, and then at the end of the race have it work out. It doesn't make for as dramatic of racing scenes at times, but you could make that happen too. And how do I know that this is possible? Because I've watched a crap ton of endurance races, and this happens in real endurance races, and people who don't really watch endurance races can jump on and watch those, and they can kind of understand what's going on with a little bit of with a little bit of commentary. I don't know that commentation is a word. A little bit of commentary. And if you add in a little bit of the radio messaging from the teams, it makes total sense. You'll hear a team engineer say, like, protect your tires, or lift and coast, or, whatever. You'll hear that kind of stuff, and it makes sense. People can pick up on it. So I really wish movies would stop doing this gimmicky cartoon stuff where all you got to do is will your car to go a little faster and not brake, and make sure that the other person is a wuss and brakes because he doesn't want to die. And if your race car driver is super, super brave and doesn't hit the brakes and wills his car to go faster, that he can win and all will be right with the world. It's ridiculous. Is this the last lap? I don't know. Yeah, there we go. So that's all I wanted to say. The NASCAR was awesome at Le Mans. It was great. I'm glad that it was included. It never bullied anybody. Movies need to start showing some actual racing strategy, or they're always going to suck. Thanks for watching. Happy driving.